if you're working at a company with data and you have access to it, it is almost criminal for you not to learn using it.
Welcome to the So You Want to Be a Data Scientist podcast. Here we interview awesome data scientists and other data professionals. This show is part of the website soyouwannabeadatascientist.com. After listening, take my free data science Kickstarter course to learn what it takes to become a data scientist. In the meantime, enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of So You Want to Be a Data Scientist podcast. Today, I have Mikiko Bazeley with me. She's a co-founder focused on ML and data science at Sidewalk.ai from San Francisco. Welcome, Mikiko.
Hey there. How's it going?
Good. How's it going with you?
Good. Can't complain.
Great. So let's dive in immediately. You are working at, you are founding Sidewalk AI. And what is this company? What does it do?
Yeah, so at Sidewalk AI, we're building a new SaaS platform for residential real estate. Our goal is to provide real estate agents and entities with the enablement tools they need to help run and grow their business. I'm a co-founder and came on board this year to work on everything data, ML, and analytics.
Nice. So you're basically not replacing real estate agents, but using AI to help them.
Absolutely. We feel that at the end of the day, real estate is a people-driven industry and business. Even though the iBuying industry has grown, the reality is the majority of real estate transactions are still managed or involve real people in the form of real estate agents and firms. For a majority of individuals, a home is an expensive proposition, for most people. And a majority of people are still, both buyers and sellers, are still not quite at the place where they feel confident and trust in any app or set of algorithms to help make this decision for them. So our goal is to help the experts do their best work in finding the right home, for the right person at the right time.
That's great. But I feel like this is very... this is something that we're seeing more and more. And in my opinion, this is also something that the AI industry is going towards more and more, not only using AI as a standalone product, but using AI to help people or using AI to enable people to do their job in a better way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when data science and machine learning was being popularized, and whenever we do have, breakthroughs like AlphaGo or Deep Blue, the first reaction people have is fear that, the robots are going to come and sort of take over our jobs. But then I think the second reaction is look at all these things we can do with it. We can solve any problem in the world. And that's really not quite true with a majority of, the sort of machine learning research that's out there right now, especially in deep learning and reinforcement learning. If we look at the research that's going on in adversarial, adversarial networks, there was this fascinating case paper that some MIT students had published where they had 3D printed this turtle that was purposely designed to be adversarial to the neural net that was attempting to classify it. And they had taken this turtle, they had taken sort of different images and different positionings of the turtle, and out of let's say a set of 10 or 100 images, 80% of them were identified as rifles, another 10 to 15% were identified as something else, and only that small percentage of images were identified as turtles. Even though, of course, us as humans looking at it, we can see, okay, this is obviously a turtle, right? So that reaction of, okay, ML and AI can solve any problem out in the world, it's a little bit naive in the sense that we found that there are situations where neural nets are sort of easily kind of confused. So we have those two ends of the extreme. And I think what we're getting is like that medium, which is machine learning is really good at augmenting, automating, sort of processes or routines that are kind of recurring and well understood. Where we start to find less value is where we expect machine learning models to replace an area that would normally involve complete sort of human decision making and creative reasoning. So I think it's really nice that we're at this place where companies are thinking, instead of how do we automate people out of the equation, it's how do we use machine learning data science to enhance the productivity and quality and enjoyment of the work that real people are doing.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this, discussion of, are Kindles going to replace all the books in the world and no one will ever want to read books? But at the end of the day, you have these people that still prefer to hold a book, right? Instead of reading from
Mm-hmm.
a tablet.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. That's me, hands down.
yeah, same for me too. So Sidewalk AI is in real estate. But is this the domain that you always worked in, or have you worked in some other domains too?
Yeah, so I've worked in at least 4+ industries in the last 5 years, including applied health signals, solar, 3D modeling, anti-piracy, and HR tech. I think people underestimate the type of flexibility that having a solid skill set, especially a technical and quantitative skill set, will give you in choosing the kind of industry you want to work in. Ultimately, your goal as a data scientist is to solve problems through analysis, experimentation, research, modeling, but emphasis on solving problems. And while each industry does have something unique about it, there can be a lot of commonalities around KPIs, business models, and even pain points, such that you can transfer your knowledge and experiences in solving a challenge in one domain to solving a similar challenge in a completely different domain. A form of transfer learning, if you will. So, for example, I was able to leverage my experience working as a financial analyst at Sunrun, focus on sales analytics and forecasting to build forecasts and predictive models for the sales team, the revenue operations organization at WalkMe, a digital adoption company. Another example, I was able to leverage my experience and knowledge I developed as a growth hacker at my first startup, working with sales and marketing automation tools, maybe testing email campaigns, and all that, to build a relationship with the growth marketing team at Livongo, to really kind of anticipate their needs and deliver on sort of their core initiatives. At the end of the day, your goal is to display competence in solving challenging problems using the data science toolkit, and then to articulate to your potential hiring managers the impact of your work in interviews.
Exactly. I totally agree. I feel like on the internet right now, there are a lot of resources that make it sound like you need to be an expert in data science before even you can even get a job.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, most of the time it's more about having the ability to learn new things and being competent and showing that competence to get a job.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've seen a lot of those like learning resources where they're like 100, different classes you can take. It's like I really love the ones where they're like, no, here are the five ones that I did. Here's the two courses, the three courses, the two books, and like the two projects that I did. Boom, right? Like those are pretty straight to the point. And I think they're a lot more helpful, frankly.
I think so too. So, talking about courses and resources, can you tell us about how you became a data scientist? What was the journey like for you? How did you make the transition?
So, since I made the decision in 2016 to pursue data science, the resources that were instrumental to my pivot included Springboard's Data Science Bootcamp, Data Science Dream Jobs, Data Science Career Program, that's run by Kyle McCow, as well as Data Camp, Coursera, edX, O'Reilly, and Real Python. So when I graduated UCSC in 2013, I only had a degree in anthropology and economics and had no real marketable skills in coding, math, data analysis, experimentation, statistics. And so between 2013 to 2016, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So, I would take community college classes, on the weekends here and there, topics like GIS, database design, Java. Um, but I was still pretty useless. And in 2016, 2017, I couldn't really do much beyond, using Tableau and a little R coding to, automate tasks like here and there. So in 2018, I joined Springboard's data science bootcamp career track, which ended up being a really good option. A big reason why it was an attractive option at that time was due to a combination of factors, including price, i.e., the affordability, especially in comparison to the full time in person boot camps. There's a focus on project based curriculum, mentorship with professional data scientists, and broad coverage across a variety of areas like machine learning, algorithms, data analysis, and coding. Before Springboard, I didn't know any Python, and at the end of it, I had a working level where I could sufficiently develop models and analyses. And even now, I really prefer working in Python. I haven't gone back to R since then. Um, and part of it too was due to my sort of undergraduate GPA. I'm ineligible to attend most of the traditional degree programs out there, which actually ended up being uh, a much better solution for me because with Springboard's data science bootcamp, I could still work full time, and not have to take out any loans. I would do the studying, before work and after work. And it was it was a very affordable option. Data Science Dream Job was also another amazing resource. The way I like to sort of explain it, Data Science Dream Job picks up where Springboard kind of leaves off by focusing on the actual job searching and interviewing components. Through a combination of office hours, practice interviews, and the amazing Slack community, I was able to learn from the experiences of the people all around me. For example, on how to approach technical interviews, how to position my background experiences, what to do if a hiring manager asks this question or that question. And the resources I continue using beyond those two programs slash boot camps, DataCamp, Coursera edX, O'Reilly, RealPython. These are all really amazing resources, especially RealPython. It helps me to continue learning the coding and the computer science background that I didn't develop in undergrad, and that's now very very important in my day to day work.
And you mentioned it briefly, but was there a reason that you chose data science and machine learning? Any specific reason?
Data science and machine learning felt like the next logical step after a couple years of working in analytics. While I loved working as an analyst embedded in business functions, even had the opportunity to enjoy experiences like business trips to Switzerland, cooking classes in Boston, learning how to two-step in a cowboy bar in Vegas. I really want to focus more on research and exploration as opposed to quick insights and providing directional guidance on a day-to-day basis. My thinking was that I could always come back to analytics with a bigger, better toolkit of data science techniques and machine learning algorithms if I didn't enjoy working as a data scientist. Instead, I found that what I enjoyed even more than research, which in reality I don't enjoy very much at all, is crafting products and code, specifically the engineering aspects. But no matter what hat you're wearing in the data science and machine learning space, you're required to always be learning and to leverage multiple skills in order to solve a single problem. I personally love challenging myself. I love constantly growing. And being a data scientist or a machine learning engineer or any other type of data science practitioner means you're signing up for being a Renaissance-esque knowledge worker, a creator, a craftswoman, who tries to always grow their toolkit, to understand how to use the tools in their toolkit, but ultimately is using a combination of your perspective, your taste, your preferences, your opinions, your knowledge in order to create something completely new and extraordinary.
It's very cool. Yeah, I totally agree about the combination of skills. That I think for me is to one of the main reasons that I'm so interested in data science, because as you said, feature engineering is kind of simple, because once you know what's up with your data and once you know what kind of data you can put in your machine learning model, at the end of the day, it's kind of just thinking of things, what can affect this outcome. So what kind of data can I bring in? How can I change this data that in a way that will increase the performance? So it's really creative work, and it's really mostly about thinking and trying to come up with solutions to complex problems. So I think it's very fun in that sense. Um, so I want to hear some examples of projects that you worked on. Can you give us a couple of examples? What kind of, were you predicting things, or were you trying to model some sort of data? What kind of projects have you been involved with so far?
So I've had the opportunity to work on a wide variety of projects, but some of my favorites have involved leveraging basic machine learning models to attack low-hanging fruit in the sales and revenue operations organizations. One of my first favorite projects was predicting the probability of a scheduled sales call resulting in a create opportunity. I created a classification model using XGBoost and leveraging data from our Salesforce instance, as as well as typical sort of feature engineering techniques, including including using NLP on like job titles, prospect notes, etc. I also leverage feature interpretability tools like SHAP, as well as feature importance to shed a little bit of light to help our leadership understand what the potential drivers were for opportunity creation. Opportunity creation has a downstream impact on KPIs like revenue, quota attainment, etc. So having an understanding of that stage of the cycle, that stage of the pipeline, was crucial for our leaders. And this was a really nice experience for a number of reasons. First, it validated and challenged some assumptions the leaders had about their business. So for example, does geo matter, or is it the teams, or is it the experience of the lead, or is it the job title? The second thing that was really nice is it showed the kind of insight we could gain, leveraging our existing data. So for example, with people who had certain titles, how many touches did we need before we could get to the sort of key decision maker? And the third thing that was really nice is it helped demystify the value of data science and machine learning to the business. I think a lot of the leaders were just in general, very skeptical about how could projects like this be valuable to us? And so having this nice little sort of, in a way, toy example kind of helped them understand there are ways to intelligently leverage machine learning, to solve some common business problems. Another project I really enjoyed was leveraging, our marketing campaign data as well as our product usage data to try to predict when users would activate into Livongo's health programs by checking in with their blood glucose meters. We ran the model a couple times, to see not just whether we could predict whether someone would activate into the program, so use their device for the first time, thereby triggering the sort of the billing term, but at what confidence we had to predict specific time windows based on tribal knowledge held by the marketing team. The marketing team had, some ideas about people who activate within this time are less likely to be successful, within 7 days of receiving their devices. We can't really understand whether someone would activate, until like a month out or something like that. So that project really was kind of nice to help really quantify our certainty around when we thought, first off, whether or not we thought someone would activate and when they would activate. And although these aren't the only types of projects I've worked on, I enjoyed both of them immensely, mainly because they showed how even sort of vanilla machine learning models, when yielded strategically, and thoughtfully, the value they have in challenging the business to do better. But truthfully, I love the work I'm doing right now, building out data science and machine learning at Sidewalk even more. As I'm getting my hands dirty with data engineering, data pipelines, model deployment, and all that good stuff.
Nice. And did you come up with the first two projects that you mentioned yourself? Was that your idea to look into those things?
Yep.
That's very cool because,
Yep.
yeah, I've been also trying to tell everyone in my audience that they don't have to only do personal projects with random data that they find online, right? If you're already working in a company, maybe they're not using machine learning yet, but you can easily, maybe not easily everywhere, but you can try to find some data sets or some data that is collected in your company and actually do data science on it. And it will give you automatic professional experience even if your title is not specifically data scientist.
Absolutely. And here are some reasons why someone should consider working with data closer to home as opposed to something that they find on Kaggle. So the first major reason is that when a hiring manager or recruiter takes a look at the person's resume and specifically the project portion, the three questions they'll typically ask themselves and eventually you are one, what problems did you try to solve? Two, what tools did you use? And three, where did you do the project? Recruiters and hiring managers have a preference for company associated projects. Even if you don't have, uh, you know, the title, right, the data science title or machine learning title, because it shows you had to deal with real data under real conditions to solve a real problem. With problem being loosely defined here, it could just be something that you found or something that's a challenge. It could also just be, analysis or hypothesis that was generated through EDA of a data set that you found, like at your company. The second big reason is that from a knowledge and skill standpoint, real data is messy, and data sets you find on Kaggle or other data challenge platforms are sanitized specifically for the purpose of optimizing one metric with no opportunity for perturbations in like scope, analysis, or focus. And the reality is that any project that you would work on in industry, there is an organic relationship between, what you're trying to understand versus where you actually end up. Because sometimes you might find some interesting patterns in the data that you actually want to explore further and sort of, take advantage of and leverage. And by understanding your company's real dirty data, it can actually help you build an understanding of your company or business at a level that maybe only the data team and leadership have. So it can give you like that appreciation for the business. And the third reason for why you'd want to work with real data at a company, even if you don't have the title, is that sometimes the easiest way to enter data science machine learning is to move into the role at an existing company. It's taking the step to analyze your company's data, signals curiosity and initiative, which are very attractive traits in a candidate. And if you think about it, if you were to, for example, if you don't have a data scientist or machine learning or analyst role and you're trying to go for one, at your existing company, you already have that existing professional network and you have those relationships where, they understand your character. Maybe they, appreciate the potential value you could bring. So it's just really a question of displaying competence in the skills that you would need, but maybe you, because of years of working at the company, you have accumulated domain knowledge, which can be very, very valuable. So that might be one reason, one of the three for why you would consider working with data, at your current company.
Yeah, totally agree. And these are some really good advice, I think, for people who want to become data scientists, people who are already working at companies and want to work with data. And I think I'll totally agree with all of them. So before we wrap up, the last thing that I want to ask you is have you ever encountered any bias? Because you're a woman in this area, women are extremely underrepresented in AI and technology in general. Have you ever had any negative experiences due to this?
Yes, yeah, unfortunately. So I've worked at a number of companies where, I was sexually harassed. I've also had experiences where my skills and abilities were disparaged because of my gender and looks. For example, I've had some people tell me that I didn't deserve my job and probably did something, inappropriate in order to get it. And it's quite hurtful. And what I try to do is I try to focus on constantly kind of growing my skill set, um, and making sure that they don't really have kind of like fodder that they can work with. At one company that was unfortunately it was my dream company. I was being sexually harassed by this one manager for 6 months. I really struggled with feeling safe, and at different points in time had to communicate to my team, both directly and indirectly, to ensure that I was never alone in the room with him, especially in a room with a locked door. During that same period, I also experienced a traumatic incident, from another individual in tech. Between the very, very long months of harassment with this manager, and the traumatic incident, I developed a lot of anxiety, and when I reported the manager who wasn't necessarily related to the other incident, but when I reported the manager, to HR on my way out from the company, I experienced months of paranoia and needed to get some kind of help, you know. And I think there were, unfortunately, like at that company, there were some other individuals who had like even worse experiences, um, which unfortunately, uh, you know, those individuals also had to eventually leave that company in order to feel safe as women. And besides that kind of sexism, I've also experienced discrimination just due to my lack of academic credentials. I'm very honest, very open that I don't have any advanced degrees like a master's or a PhD. And I'm also very open with my intention of really never getting one. And this is not a comment against people who do have PhDs or masters. It's just that between, my GPA during my undergrad years, I know, right? Like it's been 7 years, right? But even 7 years apparently is still not enough time for that to just go away. But between my GPA and also my sort of sense and feeling that, academic programs are sort of like behind the curve on keeping up with the skills and experiences that the industry really values. um, I just don't have any intention of getting one. So although I experience a lot of imposter syndrome, I do try to combat that by cultivating a growth mindset and focusing on the goal of learning skills and applying them in ways I find interesting, rather than chasing titles, accolades, or awards. It's the journey, not the goal. And I try to do my part in making data science, machine learning accessible, by sharing my journey and being honest when communicating with people, my particular perspective, as a queer Asian woman in data science. And my parting words to, everyone who's listening, and to everyone who's really interested in pursuing data science, machine learning, and who's, asking themselves the question, do I belong in this field? I would have to say absolutely yes. If I belong in the field, then you belong in the field. And the reality is that if we don't have diverse perspectives and voices from, LGBTQ, from people of color, from both women and, non-binary individuals, we'll essentially see tech that's created that is not only not for us, but can be adversarial to our goals and outcomes and wellness. And that's really something to think about.
Mikiko, thanks a lot for everything that you shared with us and everything that you talked about. I'd like to thank you again for taking time to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. It was fantastic.
Hey, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to take my free data science Kickstarter course to learn what it takes to become a data scientist. See you next time.